Welcome to Crownsmen Energy. I am your new host, Chad Carrier. Coming up on today's show, we have a great guest by the name of David Blanco. He's with AUTOSOL, and they specialize in the industrial automation. So we're going to get to David right away, and we're going to unpack exactly what AUTOSOL does and how they're positively impacting the energy industry. But first, of course, we will bring in a familiar face, Gaudi Molina. Gaudi, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, and welcome to the host position.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited for the opportunity. Working in the energy industry myself, it's filled with people such as David. Intelligent, intrepid, innovative people and companies. So I'm really looking forward to the opportunity to get to learn from these people, interview them, and get to be a part of this great show. So really appreciative of the opportunity.
Fabulous. I definitely know that this is going to be a great episode. But before we get started, we have to thank our sponsors. So first up, we've got Savona Equipment. Did you know that Savona Equipment is an electrical supplier in both Canada and the United States? Their electrical inventory includes breakers, disconnects, TEFC electric motors, starters, tech cable, cab tire, motor control centers, and transformers. For your new and refurbished electrical equipment, visit savonaequipment.com, where you will find more equipment every day. Next up, we also have SolarSet. Introducing the SolarSet Fold, the new foldable frame solar system brings power to your residential and commercial properties and can be shipped worldwide. Like all SolarSet products, the SolarSet Fold comes turnkey, pre-assembled, and is easily transported and installed. You can learn more about the SolarSet Fold and their full line of amazing solar systems at solarset.com. Next up, we have PowerZone Equipment. When you need a specialized team of world-class engineers for your oil and gas pipelines, dewatering, or any fluid handling needs, you want to visit powerzone.com. In addition to their inventory, rebuilt pumps, motors, engines, they also have an amazing team to design and engineer your systems, no matter the challenge, no matter the location. Get in the zone with PowerZone. Visit them at powerzone.com. And last but not least, we've got EnerClear Services. Have an existing pipeline that needs rehabilitation? Consider the EnerClear Advantage. EnerClear Services in situ innovation can completely clean and coat existing pipelines all out in the field. Utilizing its innovative cleaning and coating system, EnerClear can rehabilitate, recycle, and redeploy existing pipeline assets to extend the life cycle significantly. A uniform coating is applied to pipelines 3 inches and up. Long distances, bends, and welds will be cleaned and coated with less environmental impact. And flow efficiencies will lower the CO2 footprint via less energy expenditure. Visit welovepipelines.com or email ccarrier@enerclearservices.com to learn more.
Okay, thanks, Gaudi. Well, as I mentioned before, coming up on today's show, we have David Blanco. He is the Director of Technical Operations and Business Development with AUTOSOL, and we're going to bring David in now. So, David, welcome to Crownsmen Energy.
Thank you, Chad. It's good to be here, and congratulations on being the host of the Crownsmen.
Hey, thanks a lot. I really appreciate it. As I mentioned, I'm really looking forward to this opportunity, and of course, interviewing you. So, let's get right into it. Let's tee it up for our viewers, for our listeners, in terms of AUTOSOL. Your company specializes in software and integration services for industrial automation. So in a lot of cases, we hear the acronym SCADA, which stands for Supervisory Control and Data Acquisition. So let's start with that. Explain what SCADA means and what industrial automation means for the industry.
Okay, gladly. So funny enough, what is SCADA is the very first question that was asked for my interview for AUTOSOL. And not much has changed in the past 10 years for me. Like you said, SCADA is supervisory control and data acquisition. But at the heart of it, what it really is, it's just a combination of hardware and software for industrial automation. And the goal of SCADA is to make sure that these complex and dangerous industrial processes are run as efficiently and safely as possible. So this could mean using software to help calibrate hardware in the field, to monitor the hardware that's in the field, the pressure on a pipeline, how much is coming out of a well, the status of a critical valve at a river crossing, and even then writing values out to the field and controlling this hardware. Basically the parts where AUTOSOL fits into this, right? You've got the automation world, you've got the SCADA world, and then inside the SCADA world, where AUTOSOL really shines, although we do building automation and water, wastewater, our main contribution to the world is in oil and gas SCADA. So you've got RTUs and PLCs, so remote terminal units and program logic controllers out in the field, controlling assets. You have a telemetry network, radios, cell modems, satellites, and then you have an AUTOSOL technology in the middle, acting as a polling engine or a gathering point. And then you have some sort of consumption of that data. So the creation of the data in the field, AUTOSOL in the middle, and then consumption of that data by clients to safely operate or monitor these assets and these processes. That's kind of the nutshell of it.
Well, it's a great introduction, and exposing us to what SCADA is and how AUTOSOL treats it. Now, in the past, correct me if I'm wrong, but these systems have required what is called a human-machine interface, or an HMI. Talk to me about HMIs and how they have evolved with AUTOSOL.
Okay, sure. So an HMI, basically, like you said, human-machine interface, that is where a human being will physically sit in front of 1 or 8 or 12 monitors and watch data come in through a SCADA system and make operational and safety decisions based off what they see on that screen. I provided a couple samples of some of the HMIs that AUTOSOL has made, and this is kind of what they look like, right? The first one's going to be a pipeline with devices, some pressures, some temperatures, some valve statuses. You can get fancy with some of them and show representations of the field assets overlapping with like a Google map or something like that. Or you can even just have, all of your compressor stations or all of your well pads on one screen. That way you can compare their statuses and availability. It's really just a way to represent data. And the way that it has changed, not only with us, but just from the way the world has changed as well, is they've gotten more connected. And they've gotten more connected to a variety of things, right? They connect to more things for different reasons than they used to, and they do it on a whole new scale. If I went back in time 15, 20 years, a 50,000 tag, and in the HMI world, a tag is like one piece of data. So the pressure that's being read off one sensor would be one tag, right? So a 50,000 tag HMI would be considered a big system. And now we're pushing data to and creating 2.5, 3 million tag SCADA systems. Because not only are they connected to more sensors in the field, more RTUs and more PLCs, as kind of SCADA technology continues to improve, like all our technology, but also the reasons why change. So it used to be that you could get real-time data into an HMI, and that's what it was for. So that way a human being can sit there and make operational and safety decisions in real time. And then it evolved into, well, I want more of that. As communications got better, satellite got cheaper maybe, but also radio came to more prominence. You had cell modems put out there. Now operators could get more data. And then there was a shift from just getting real time and more real time to also getting something called EFM, or electronic flow measurement data. And that is a point where AUTOSOL specifically shines. EFM data is basically an archive of how much was produced or came through a certain location, either at a well or a pipeline. So companies use it at the end of the month to figure out how much they actually produced or moved, and therefore who owes them how much money. It's sort of like the first step in the accounting process for figuring out how an oil and gas company is going to make money. And so not only did we start bringing in real time, and then we started bringing in EFM data, but then we also started servicing different endpoints. So in most SCADA systems today, when a tag is pulled from the field, and let's just say it reads 1,000, right? Well, 1,000 what? So in the field, it reads 1,000. It comes in through AUTOSOL, and then AUTOSOL pushes it to an HMI, and the HMI is where that data first gets contextualized. This is 1,000, PSI at this location, and it's not in a high and it's not in a low alarm, so everything's okay. So the HMI has always been a place where data has been contextualized, but now the HMI is also feeding other services, either a client front end, maybe it's got an ODBC connection to a historian or an analytics service, or a cloud machine learning service. So we're bringing in more data. We're bringing it in different ways, real-time and EFM. And then also the HMIs are connecting to different things. And all along the way that HMI has changed, the way AUTOSOL also does it has changed as well. We used to bring in 2 or 3 protocols to feed these 50,000 tag systems. And now you can, fit 6,000 devices on one AUTOSOL server and feed 3 million tags to one HMI. So we have scaled with the needs of our clients the whole way through. And it's just really exciting to see what people are doing with it. It's traditional SCADA in the sense of I'm getting data and making decisions, but it's a whole new world in terms of how they're using it and what they want to use it for.
Well, yeah, that's fascinating, David. Like as you explain it and you walk us through this, is it fair to say, with what AUTOSOL is doing and where you hear often, the saying that the data tells a story, and to me it sounds like, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it tells me that AUTOSOL is providing that data, but also giving you a really granular look into that data, and then also providing some color commentary in terms of what that data is to help your clients potentially make some really important decisions. Is that fair to say?
Yes. And I think that, of course, I'm going to say it because I'm in this part of the industry, right? Everyone thinks that they do the most important thing. But at the end of the day, what's happening in the field and what's happening on the HMI, AUTOSOL is how we get both of those things happening as close to each other as possible. So the way that AUTOSOL works basically is we have a series of softwares. Our most prominent is called AUTOSOL Communication Manager. And what that particular software does is it has a number of, we'll call them, manufacturer protocols. So inside the field, we've got the RTUs and PLCs, monitoring sensors on a well, artificial lift, compressor stations on a pipeline, valve statuses, and they speak, depends on how you count it, but dozens of different languages and little firmware versions of themselves and company-specific versions of this one or that one, so on and so forth. ACM, the AUTOSOL polling engine software, speaks to all of them, hundreds of them. And we can communicate to all of them over all the telemetries that exist in our industry. So satellite, licensed, unlicensed, serial, TCP/IP radio, cell modems, fiber, whatever our clients use, we can speak over it. We talk to all these different protocols and then convert them into an industry standard protocol for consumption, not just by the HMI, but also to those other parallel systems around the HMI as well, if we need to.
Okay, no, that's a really good point, because as I was doing research for this interview and for this show, that's what I found, is that in some cases, some of these systems could be antiquated and rely on company-specific software and even hardware. But it sounds to me that with AUTOSOL, you're helping to bridge that gap in terms of information delivery.
Yeah, absolutely. That is our bread and butter. And if I could break down that comment a little bit, as this is the moment where AUTOSOL really shines, and that is, I want to break down the phrase antiquated, and then maybe also talk a little bit about like company specific, right? Okay. In AUTOSOL's view, if it's still working, it's not antiquated. There are, I know for a fact, because I have been on calls supporting them, there are RTUs and PLCs that are still being used in the field that are a decade older than I am. And AUTOSOL helps take those older systems and also these company-specific ones and turn them into industry generic. So AUTOSOL can be used and excels in 2 places, really. There's the brownfield, which I guess is industry parlance for an existing system. And the way it works is, let's say I'm a big boy oil company. I've got 2,000 wells, and I want to go buy this field with 500 wells from this other company. But I am a Emerson shop, an ABB shop, or something like that. Well, if I want to go buy these 500, what if they have something real specific, real niche, like a hex repeater protocol, right? Well, how am I going to integrate that into my existing SCADA system if I don't have any way of talking to hex repeater? Am I going to go spend millions of dollars and rip and replace all this? That's where AUTOSOL comes in. If you're using us, you don't have to go rip and replace, because we talk to hex repeater, we talk to these older, antiquated, and company-specific protocols and setups. So if you have us, then you go buy this 500 well field, this 1,000 well field. It almost doesn't matter what they have, because one, we probably got the protocol. We can talk that telemetry, and we bring it back probably as really a best-in-class solution to bring all that data back into one place and then output it to your HMI, your historian, your cloud service, your accounting software that you use, if it's on-prem or even in the cloud. And even if it's greenfield, so that's the brownfield example of, well, you bought these assets. How am I going to talk to them? AUTOSOL. The greenfield is, let's say you're going to buy these 1,000 wells off Exxon, and you're going to start a brand new company, and you're going to do AI on these artificial lifts and make sure that it's the most efficient form of rod pump known to man. You can also use AUTOSOL for that. And here's why. Not only do we have all of the antiquated company-specific technology, but then we have the broader connectivity to talk up to your cloud-based AI, Azure, AWS kind of machine learning platforms that you're going to leverage to do this kind of high-level data analysis. So not only do we help you grow where geography might be a problem, but we also help you grow where opportunity really has no limit. And I guess if I could reference kind of like the first half of what you said, I don't remember the exact question, but something about like just the broader challenges that face industrial automation today.
Yes.
Part of that brownfield example about the rip and replace, I said, there is this impulse today, especially to rip and replace. Like, I could only get something new and exciting done if I replace the old way of doing it. But I don't really think that that's the best case. And from my experience with AUTOSOL over the past decade, our growth has not come from rip and replace. Our growth has come from prioritize and integrate. So someone brings us in when they prioritize, accurate, reliable, scalable data, but with their existing assets. In this case, software can be the solution to a lot of the challenges that our clients face when it comes to automation.
Well, it's a great point, David, because you're helping to address, the barriers to entry and you're, to use your words, to piggyback on that growth of AUTOSOL, what you guys are helping to, put forth to the industry in terms of data and automation. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe AUTOSOL and your company has your communication software and your HMI development products assisting over 250,000 kilometers in just the United States alone in terms of pipeline. Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
Well, that alone is a great feat. So congratulations to you guys on that. But where does your company's success come from? You alluded to it before, but what really sets AUTOSOL apart in terms of what you guys are doing in the space?
I hope you have a glass of wine next to you for the cheese I'm about to bring here. But it is. I
love wine.
And hands down, it's our clients. It's our clients, and I'll tell you why. I would love to claim that I or anybody at AUTOSOL, if it's our 35-year veteran, 20-year, 15-year veteran, fresh out of school, prodigy student, employee, if any of us could sit here in our office in a room with no windows and come up with the next big thing or transform SCADA in some way all by ourselves, I would love it, but we can't. At the end of the day, the success of AUTOSOL rests with our clients. One, for recognizing that we can help them in the present, but also working with us to create a partnership to make sure that we're going to be with them as they grow, as they scale, and they want to try new things in the future as well. And that's why we focus heavily on not only keeping the client, I guess a good way of saying it is that a client's stake in AUTOSOL doesn't end at the sales process. When they get a license file from us for the software, that's when the sales cycle ends, but when the relationship building really begins. Okay. And because of that, our clients always have a seat at the table when it comes to our development. We take their considerations, their requests, and where they want to go into the development schedule of all of our products, whether or not that's ACM, that's our server polling, whether or not that's EACM or Edge ACM that is deployed in the field for IIoT purposes, or OneSCADA, which is our HMI package. And we're able to focus on our clients so much for, I guess, another reason of our success, if I can just kind of roll this through in conscience here. So first is clients, and we can focus on them so much because we are independent. At the end of the day, AUTOSOL is family owned, and there are multiple generations of that family involved with AUTOSOL on a day-to-day basis. We don't have investment shareholders that make us split our loyalties between them and the clients. We are completely loyal to the clients. And it's because we don't have this outside obligation that we can focus on our clients and also have a sort of resiliency. There's not a 20% we have to write off to some executive somewhere. Right. So when hard times come, 2008, 2009, 2014, 2015, 2020, 2021, we don't have layoffs as a result of that as well. And why that's important, I guess, is because it gives us the third part of our recipe of success, and that is honestly our people. Our people are experienced. I mentioned earlier that we have 35, 32, 30, 28, 25-year veterans. I'm on my 11th year right now. And part of that is because AUTOSOL doesn't have investors, and because we're resilient, our people can have a culture of trust. They trust each other. They treat each other with fairness and respect and honesty. And that helps them create an internal culture where they want to stay, and they pass that on to the clients. AUTOSOL has 5 separate departments internally. 4 out of 5 of those are client facing. Okay. Everybody in a leadership position right now in AUTOSOL, everybody was an internal promotion. And these people, our employees, our managers, our leaders, they act as our face to the clients. So they take this positive internal culture and they express it with the clients to develop these partnerships. And that is really, I guess, the last secret of success I'll talk about here, is not only do we partner with the clients to kind of hear what they have to say, what they like, what they don't like, what works, what doesn't work, what they would like to see improved, or the next thing they're looking into. But AUTOSOL also positions itself in the industry as someone that other companies who are also servicing our clients can come to. So we have relationships with sensor manufacturers, RTU manufacturers, PLC manufacturers, radio manufacturers, cell modem, IoT edge box manufacturers. And then on the, I guess, as I'm leading the field side, we partner with a number of software companies as well who do stuff parallel to us, like people who make brokers, historians, also a number of HMI companies. We work very closely with them as well. And the reason why the relationship works on a hardware and a software partnership level with AUTOSOL, who makes software, is because at the end of the day, we're all trying to do the same thing, and that is help our clients operate these extremely complicated processes as efficiently and safely as possible. We also, and part of that partnership is we also use integrators extensively. So we have partnerships with integrators in the industry who choose us for projects because of the success that we bring not only them, but also the client at the end of the day.
Well, and let's build on that. Let's expand upon, your AUTOSOL's approach to collaboration and really a holistic approach in terms of, collaborating with your clients and many different stakeholders within the industry. So ultimately you provide the software, but you also have engineering support as well. Like, it doesn't just end at the software when it comes to your clients and the support that you provide. Correct.
We do have one of our departments we do call engineering, but rather than engineering, we call them application engineers.
Okay.
And they're not just there to set up ACM, although that is kind of where they got their start. We created a new software in the 90s, and then we had to go integrate it on client sites. And as we were there working on ACM, basically the conversation said, well, this is great. Can you also help me do this? Or can you also help me do that? And that's where our engineering services branch came through. And so today they've kind of blossomed from, originally just being someone to go set up ACM into this broader, almost solutions architect kind of integration role. And one of the reasons why they've been so successful is because, one, they do help install and deploy ACM, but also they help create the, success along the whole system, if I can say that. And one way they do it is many of them are actually capable of writing code themselves.
Okay.
So sometimes if we run into a problem, I need to get data, out of the database and into a CSV so I can send it off to some business network and their program will take it. Well, even if there exists a third-party software already that might do it, rather than upselling them some sort of license that just makes the system more expensive, makes it more cumbersome, we might just say, well, hey, how about we just write 2 or 3 little scripts here that just handle the data and push it out, and then you don't have to buy a whole new license for this service. And generally, the clients respond very positively to that. So that's a big focus of how we support and engage our clients, right? It's not just about AUTOSOL software or AUTOSOL services, but it's about making sure that they're happy when we're no longer on site. That's the system's strong enough to strong enough to overcome any sort of bumps in the road that might come from expansion that wasn't in the original specs document, which is a very common thing. You build the system and someone goes, wow, this works great. And then a year later, someone says, I want all this data here. And so someone writes an app that pulls it, and then someone writes another app that pulls it. The longer our systems run and the more that they grow, the more pride we take in the work of our engineers.
Well, and it seems like, there's, as we, it's 2021, we're progressing. It seems like there's a real trend, of course, to, moving more digital, getting more information. Information is power. It's critical. It's key. How in your opinion, in AUTOSOL's opinion, because I'm just really curious about this, is the trend towards digital data collection and automation, how is that really affecting your clients and how things are moving forward in a positive manner in terms of understanding assets?
That is a very big topic of conversation here. And if I could reword your question, and instead of say the golden trigger phrase, digital transformation, right? Mm-hmm. Digital transformation. The problem with digital transformation is that it means something different to everyone I have ever talked to. I am sure, well, I know there is because I went and found and read it, but there is a very niche academic version of what exactly digital transformation is, how to use it, how it integrates with everything else. But the problem with the ivory tower version of it, well, I guess 2 things. 1, no ivory. And 2, that doesn't really help me explain it to a client or help service them. There's a comic that I saw, and I absolutely love it. It's an executive sitting at a table, and I guess I'm describing it here for the people listening to the podcast, not watching the YouTube. There's an executive sitting at the table with a couple other people there, and he says, who's ready for digital transformation? And they all raise their hand. And the bottom panel says, all right, what does it mean? And one guy's looking at his phone, one guy's whistling up, and one guy's literally walking out of the room. Mm-hmm. I was actually at a trade show 3 weeks ago, and one of the keynote speakers was an IIoT technologist. And the person introducing them mentioned digital transformation. And in the speech, they said, I don't know what it means, but, ... Right. So here was someone introducing a IIoT technology for digital transformation, but could not explain what it was. I actually have a version of it taped to my monitor. So that way, when clients want to talk to me about it, I have the words to kind of express it. So let me kind of hammer home this point, if I can, about the difference between the ivory tower version and then what I'll tell people about it. And then I'll actually answer your question. Sorry. Here's the official academic version of digital transformation. Digital transformation is the cultural, organizational, and operational change of an organization, industry, or ecosystem through a smart integration of digital technologies, processes, and competencies across all levels and functions in a staged and structured way. I don't ever say that to anybody. What I actually say is digital transformation is just unlocking potential through software.
I like that one better.
Yeah, of course I say that because, we make software, but ultimately that is what it means to a lot of our clients. Even if you're talking about hardware nowadays, that hardware is running some sort of software. So it's about unlocking potential through software. And one of the ways that this really, I guess, shakes up traditional SCADA is that the way SCADA is rolled out nowadays is kind of like building a chain. You do it link by link, piece by piece. So the well is drilled, the pipe is laid, someone goes in and puts all the sensors in, and then someone comes in and puts the telemetry in, and then someone puts the polling engine in, and then someone puts the HMI and the historian in the cloud. And you build this chain where the data passes from link to link as it's designed to do. But the part that trips up people about digital transformation is that last part of the academic definition, the across all levels and functions in a staged and strategic way. That build out link by link, it is staged, but it's not staged with the idea of, I want data from this sensor in the middle of nowhere, West Texas, to get to my phone in this analytics app. When that well was first drilled and all that was first there, that was not the thought of it. So the way it was designed and the way it's ultimately consumed currently does not lend itself to an easy digital transformation. And what clients are grappling with here is that digital transformation is, it's hard to figure out what it is solving. People hear it and say, yes, I want to do digital transformation. Or it's like, yes, I would love to get surgery. It's like, well, what hurts? I have a couple of pain points, but I don't know if it's worth surgery on. And so that's where AUTOSOL has actually seen a lot of success in helping our clients digitally transform. And that is that we do find the pain points that have a return of investment that warrants going into a small little bit of surgery. And so, for example, one of them would be the application of a technology called MQTT.
Okay.
So MQTT is just a way to transport data from point A to point B. But the beauty of MQTT is that that data has context from the minute it is put into MQTT along the entire chain. So rather than having, like I kind of talked earlier about, right, I've got this tag that's 1,000. But 1,000 what? Like, right. What device? Where is this?
Where's the context, right?
Exactly. Until it lands in an HMI, it's almost useless. MQTT lets me contextualize that data from the field. And so since it has context, I can still send it to the HMI, and I still do. But because I have this context, other applications can consume it at the exact same time as the HMI. So rather than having to sit down and, tear up all of your technology in the field, putting an IoT box, running something like EACM out there, which can pull all of your data, collect it, and then convert it into MQTT for consumption across multiple steps. I mean, it can go from field to server, from server to cloud, from field to HMI. It's very, very flexible. And one of the specific ways that we do it, to kind of really bring it home to a point here, digital transformation for our clients is, they have tens of thousands of wells spread out across the world, where sometimes connectivity is a big problem. So we can put our edge solution EACM out there and use MQTT to reduce the bandwidth over that network to then increase the amount of data that they're receiving, and then changing where that data goes into without a rip and replace. Like, this is a box you can just drop in and it starts to run. And I've got some charts I would like to share as well, where it's, MQTT versus traditional polling. So there's MQTT versus Modbus. So if I am trying to pull 1,000 tags with Modbus on traditional polling, I'm going to use basically 100% of potential bandwidth. But if I use MQTT to pull those exact same 1,000 tags, and only 1% of those tags change value from the last poll, I'll save 99.6% or something like that, 99 point something percent of bandwidth. If 50%, if 500 tags are changing value, instead of sending 1,000 tags, MQTT will just wrap up 500 of them and give them context. And it will still only be like 85% of the original bandwidth. So if we can reduce the bandwidth with MQTT, we can then also start sending more data over that same path. And that's one way that we help, digitally transform, although it might not hit every single bullet point in the academic definition. At the end of the day, if we can get somebody higher resolution data on a plunger lift station to tell whether or not their optimization algorithm is working in real time instead of once every 2-week cycle when they send someone out there, then we have accomplished our mission. We have helped a client digitally transform a portion of their process in a strategic and staged way, right? We helped, we unlocked potential with software.
David, that well done. First off, well done, because that, as you alluded to at the beginning of the question, it was a digital transformation. It's a big topic, and it's one that gets thrown around. It's a buzzword. So really appreciate the context and bringing that home for us and myself as well. As I think about your technology and some of the points that you touched on earlier here in terms of connectivity, you mentioned the bandwidth, really just the ability to provide that clarity and that granular information stream. Ultimately, your process, your software can allow for real-time data to be tracked, giving operators control of, let's say, a pipeline system thousands of kilometers away from that operator, which working in the pipeline space, that's truly incredible. And as we all know, in this day and age in 2021, as the energy industry, we're facing a lot of eyes on our industry and focusing on best practices. Rightfully so. Safety is of paramount importance. We all want to be safe, secure, provide a safe, secure energy source for society. So how is this changing the industry from a safety perspective?
Okay. At the end of the day, safety is the reason why our clients use us. They want to be sure that these complicated processes are happening as safely as possible. One, because our clients care about people, but two, because they also want to maintain the ability to be in business. And before I start answering this question, I want to define what critical infrastructure means to me so I can really shrink that lane down.
Okay.
Because that can be a lot of things that I don't want someone to hear and say, oh, he doesn't know what he's talking about. But for me, for AUTOSOL, even though, AUTOSOL does building automation and water, wastewater, at least in my personal experience at the company, most of the business I've done has been with oil and gas, production, midstream, storage, distribution, and gathering systems are what I'm going to refer to when I talk about critical infrastructure.
And that's perfect. Yeah, let's keep it to that.
And particularly when it comes to like midstream pipelines. So especially with the Colonial Pipeline kind of fresh in our memories, our clients are focusing very, very heavily on safety. And what constitutes safety also changes as these kind of incidents rack up. And I'll divide it into a couple parts, and then I'll talk about each one. The first one is safety in the traditional sense. Stop something from exploding, stop something from leaking.
Right.
The second one is reliability, and that is a component of safety. And the third one is security, which is an increasingly important piece of safety. So the first one here, safety, there's a lot of instances where the phrase risk tolerance is thrown around, especially when it comes to SCADA systems. So that's where ACM and EACM really, really shine, is at the end of the day, these two technologies can get as much data as fast and as reliably as a client's going to need to safely operate these systems. A lot of these pipelines have a heartbeat where if there's no communication from certain key points on this pipeline to the HMI in 10 seconds, 5 seconds, something like that, the whole system will shut down. And that is out of safety. That costs the company a lot of money. So ACM, EACM, AUTOSOL in general is usually deployed in circumstances where it'll say right there on the bid, 99.9% uptime or better. And that's where we excel. Not only does our software at the end of the day stay online and get you data, but it makes sure that the people that pick us stay at the company too. There is I don't know if it's famous, but there's a HMI book written by a man named Eddie Habibi that I had to read when I came to AUTOSOL to make HMIs. to learn about how to do it safely and to the best techniques and standards. I'll share a screenshot of the SCADA system of the Texas City explosion. I'm born and raised in Houston, Texas, so the Texas City explosion back in 2005 is still fresh in my memory, at least. And there's a screenshot of the SCADA system that they were using, with the portion of the HMI highlighted, where basically the plant went boom over. It was not well identified. You couldn't see it from all the other different colors on the screen. There was no real significance given to this little piece of data. And then if you go back and you look at that HMI from the 2005 explosion, and you look at one of the HMI screens I shared, when it comes to building safe SCADA systems, AUTOSOL uses something called PHMSA, which is from the Pipeline and Hazardous Material Safety Administration. Okay. Basically, it's a way of making sure that if there is an alarm on that screen, you're going to see it. Mm-hmm. Red is for alarm, yellow is for alarm, orange is for alarm. Every color has a purpose, and the purpose of an alarm color is to draw your eye to it. So that's the kind of attention to detail, meticulousness, and I guess safety conscious way that we go about designing HMIs. The other part of that was reliability. At the end of the day, the clients need to pick a technology that is not going to break at 3 a.m. on a Friday night on a holiday. Mm-hmm. Increasingly, especially over the past 2 years, increasingly people have been choosing AUTOSOL for that. High uptime, high integration, high reliability. This is a platform that we've been honing for over 25 years. And the last part is security. All of these processes are difficult enough to do when we're just fighting physics, right? It's even harder to do that when there's someone trying to get in there and open the wrong valve at the wrong time, or change a value somewhere like that. So as our clients adopt new security measures, we integrate the technology into that. So we've got something called OPC-UA, which has the ability to limit the number of ports that are opened, as well as use certificates for transporting data. We can use native Windows Active Directory security inside our app as well. So if someone is terminated or there's some sort of violation of the security procedures, IT has the control to make sure that a bad actor doesn't have access to our software as well. And as the complexity of our client systems grows, more hands try to get into the cookie jar. The AI, machine learning, analytics, historians, business units, client interfaces to these HMIs. We are basically working with our clients to see what's your concern and how can we address it. So we work hand in glove with them on any sort of security issues that come up.
Well, I really like the analogy you used, the heartbeat of the pipeline. That was great, David. Great answer. You're definitely giving us a lot of great information here. Now let's dig a little deeper in terms of is there a specific case study or a specific project or success that comes to mind that you'd like to share with us?
There are a couple, if we have time. So I'll share one, and that's back to the digital transformation example that I was talking about. We did do, and I'll provide some screenshots of the end result here, of a before and after. We had a client that was pulling data from a rock, 2,200 tags, and this was going over a 900 megahertz radio network back to ACM, and then into NHMI. And at the end of the day, they needed higher resolution data. So they're pulling this guy once an hour. They're hitting him 24 times a day. And if you look at the graph that I provided on the plunger step, basically, I don't know too much about the plunger lift, but you miss every single time the plunger changes. And the feedback from the client was that this data is useless. The flow almost seems consistent. It doesn't capture what's actually happening in the field. So we deployed our Edge ACM, and the way that works is basically you get a switch with a little Linux Debian environment, and our software can go run on it. We didn't rip and replace anything in the field. We deployed this box right behind their radio, between the radio and the rock. EACM then polled all 2,200 tags, but instead of feeding data every hour, we started feeding data every minute. And that made the world of difference. So now, instead of missing every single step on this plunger lift, we captured every single one. And now the relationship between flow and step, tubing and casing pressure was now available to them. So according to them, we reduced their, their optimization time from a 2-week time span, right? Make this change, wait for it, send someone out there, gather the data, come back. And we took that to 1 day. Wow. So we got them 60 times the data. We increased their optimization cycle by 14 times, and we didn't have to rip and replace any technology. So another example of how AUTOSOL can come together for our clients, and this one's going to be a good merger of technology and people, is I mentioned earlier we have a software called SCADA. What SCADA basically is it's almost like a prepackaged rollout SCADA system. It's got the core things someone's going to need, templates, database structure, links to ACM, grid views, alarms, journal entries, a very small alarm management tool. And we had a client come to us one time, and basically it's a greenfield project. And they said, okay, I just bought these 2,000 wells. It did not come with the SCADA system. I have to have this up in 2 months. And with SCADA and our application engineering team, we were able to get that company up and running. I mean, from a flat file with their data, which is like the IP addresses of their assets and what tags they want, a flat file of their data, to a fully functioning HMI with working alarms, working polling, and point check done in 2 weeks.
Wow. So
not only, I mean, that's pretty responsive. And I guess the last example I'll give about AUTOSOL is almost pure service. So we had, and this was last month actually, we had just rolled out a brand new protocol, 8500 protocol. Well, actually, we hadn't even rolled it out yet. It was in development, and an integrator called and said, "Hey, David, I have a client who has a problem. He is using a different polling engine, and this polling engine can only poll tank 1. So of a multi-tank site, it can't poll tank 2, 3, or 4.
Okay.
Well, the client recently had one of the, tank 2 or 3 overflowed overnight because they were manually sending someone out, and he just couldn't get there in time to check the level. Yeah. So they asked me, "Do you have this protocol?" And I said, "Well, by chance, we're actually developing it. So if the client's comfortable doing a pre-alpha use of it, we can help." So the integrator asked the client said yes. Client installs ACM next to other polling engine. And we shone like the sun in TCP/IP. We got tank 1, 2, 3, 4. Everything they tried to poll came in, but we were having a lot of trouble polling over serial, which is not normal because, out of the 500,000 RTUs and PLCs that use ACM currently, probably more than half are currently serial, honestly. So it was a little weird. So, the integrator and client working with our support team, I get on the call, an engineer gets on the call, a developer gets on the call, and we're all banging our heads like we can't figure out what's wrong. Finally, one of our engineers says, "You know what, guys? I actually happen to live 45 minutes from this site. How about I go out there tomorrow? We all reconvene. And not only do I know where this is, but there's a good chance I was the engineer who installed it 15 years ago. So I actually already have access to the tower box." So the next day, this guy goes out there, and we're able to basically figure out the exact tuning we need to communicate over a very, very low baud serial network. And within 30 minutes, we had ACM up and running. And then within a week, the other polling engine was out. We were in, and the executive of this company called me and said, basically, the one polling engine wasn't working. 2 polling engines at once was risky for him. But basically, at the end of the day, AUTOSOL is what reduced their risk tolerance and their risk profile and got them all the data. So I think that last example really, really does service to our to our support team, and gets back to what I said about AUTOSOL being a collaborative effort of us and client, us and integrator and client, and the quality of our people.
Yeah, and the quality of commitment to your clients as well. It definitely, that's a great story. I appreciate you sharing that with us, David. Well, and as we bring this interview back around, and as we bring it home, that was, you kind of alluded to, my last question really is just, as we look forward, you mentioned some of the developments that you're doing, but yeah, as we look forward, as AUTOSOL moves forward in the industry as a company, is there anything new and exciting that you're working on, or just, ways to forward and push through, what you guys are doing?
We have quite a bit going on. So at the end of the day, our ultimate goal is to bring it all together, for our clients. And it's not just about polling for us at the end of the day. That is one of the many things that we do. It's just one of the things that we do extremely, extremely well. Currently, we have an expansion of basically the ACM platform. ACM started off as a product called AES way back in 1994 or 5. And back then it was just a polling engine. But as time goes on, it is expanding more and more into a platform. It's a platform for people to get data, to interact with data, to process data, and to exchange data between different parts of their SCADA network. So if you're a new production company, if you're a new midstream company, gathering, distribution, we basically have the software and expertise and years of proven service to help you achieve not only the things that you need to do now operationally, get the product out of the ground, get the product down the pipe, get the product from the plant to your clients safely, reliably, cost efficiently. And as you think to the future about how could the cloud or machine learning or AI help me as well, we have collaborations with our clients right now to help them get data from ACM, so from their field to the cloud, in the form it needs to be, when it needs to be there, and basically control also the pricing of it. Because some of these cloud services, if you just throw every single thing you have at it, your bill's going to go way up because they charge you by the tag.
Okay.
And that's on the server side. So we're also right now talking to our clients about what the next generation of ACM is going to look like, getting their direct feedback on new features they want to see in the existing product, but also new ways that they want to use it. One thing that comes to mind is containers. That's something that we're looking into as well for basically cloud scalability and cloud deployment. But that's just on the server side. On the edge side, we're also focusing very heavily, because that is where a lot of the digital transformation talk is going towards. There's the IIoT, and the way that affects the oil industry is basically edge computing, edge processing. But the first part of edge computing, the first part of edge processing is being able to obtain that data from the end device or from devices around it. So we're putting a lot of effort into our edge solution, EACM, right now. Not only does it gather data, but it can also handle data for backups, detect when like your HMI goes down, and then start saving data in the field until it can come back up. So the future is very bright. We're very excited to be working with our clients on all these new opportunities. And I guess the most exciting part about it is, a lot of times we go into the room and we have the kind of culture here where you don't always have to have the answer. You're allowed to say, I don't know, because the next part of I don't know is I don't know, tell me more. And so as we tell our clients, I don't know what the next 5 years have in store. What do you see yourself doing in 5 years? Right now, I'm having those conversations, and I'm looking forward to continue having them.
Well, it's a great approach to learning and fascinating stuff. The technology side of our industry is truly incredible. So, thank you, David, for your time today. Like, this was, I'm sure for our viewers, our listeners, myself for sure. I learned a lot about your company and just the industrial automation side of the industry. So, thank you so much for coming on Crownsmen Energy today.
Yes, thank you very much for having me. I had a great time, and great job hosting.
Hey, thanks a lot. And one more quick question before we go for you, David. Where can people learn more about AUTOSOL?
People can learn more about us at our website, www.autosoln, crownsmen.com. You can also find us on LinkedIn as AUTOSOL. I am very active on the website, so feel free to reach out or call our number 281-286-6017, and a human in North America will answer.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, David, again. Gowdy. Yeah, fantastic interview. That just, like I said, it's fascinating. It's just the technology side is continually just, makes my brain spin. I love it.
No, absolutely. I find it almost overwhelming, because there's just so much. And the more I feel like all interviews, I think, or all of our episodes, there's just not enough time to really unravel every aspect of it. And, but even just this episode was just kind of mind blowing to me anyway.
Oh, I agree. It was a pleasure talking to David, and we'd love to get him back on. And we just scratched the surface of this topic, but I can't wait to learn more about it. So it was a great episode. And before we go, Gowdy, I guess how can people follow along with us with Crownsmen Energy? Suggest guests. How can people get involved with Crownsmen Energy?
Absolutely. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, because we've got tons of new episodes coming on there. We've got, from Crownsmen Energy to Mining Now to Crownsmen Egg and the Crownsmen Show, of course. Plus, we've got also Change Itself, who will have a new episode coming out in a couple days. So you definitely do not want to miss that. And more to come for them as well. And if you'd like to be a part of one of our shows, you can contact us, info@crownsmen.com. Yeah, fabulous.
That's great. I love it. And good point too, to catch Jared Downey. Of course, he's hosting all the other Crownsmen platforms, or a majority of them as well. So from all of us at Crownsmen Energy, really appreciate you listening in today, and can't wait to see you on the next episode of Crownsmen Energy. Take care.